Today we'll talk about human resource security. So before we get started on that, October is National Cybersecurity Month. So October is coming up. So we'll talk briefly about that. Then we'll get into human resource security, defining the relationship between information security and personal practice. Recognize the stage of employee life cycle, describe the purpose of confidentiality, an acceptable use agreement, understand appropriate security education training, and awareness, create personal related security policies and procedure. So if you go to the Homeland Security homepage, you'll see the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month that's held in October. You'll also see what it's about. So they start off with own it, never click and tell, staying safe on social media, updated privacy settings, keep tabs on your app, never click and tell, stay safe on social media. So they probably have updated this. This is probably from a few years ago. Security, shake up your password protocol, create strong, unique passphrases, double your login protection, multi-factor authentication, shop safe online, avoid phishing, play hard to get with strangers. Protect it. If you connect, you must protect it, updating the latest security software, web browsing, and operating systems. Stay protective, Wi-Fi safety. If you collect it, protect it, keep customer consumer data and information safe. So getting into human security policy, the question is it possible that people are simultaneously in organizations most valuable and most dangerous threats? So that's true. So studies have found that people are the weakest link. So it's people-driven process, information security. So we got to secure that information. So it's imperative that the information security program be faithfully supported by information owner, custodians, and users. So employees need access to information. So we need to get our employees' background, education, and kind of determine their weakness. Employees know what is expected of them. So candidates and employees provide employers with a great deal of personal information. So it's the organization's responsibility to protect that information. So before we give any access to employees, they have to understand the organizational expectation, policies, handling, standards, and consequences of non-compliance. So the information is codified in two agreements, a confidential agreement and an acceptable use agreement. So these have to be reviewed and updated annually and redistributed to employees and have them sign it. Sorry, I skipped over. Yeah, sorry about that. We're on slide 10. So even for long-standing employees need to be re-educated. So that goes with any kind of security protocol that employees have to be re-educated. So NIST has invested, resources in developing role-based security education training and awareness model called the SATA. So here's kind of the employee's life cycle. You got recruitment, onboarding, user provision, orientation, career development, and termination, or they may change roles, and so it's a life cycle. So recruitment, so this process looking for new employees, hiring employees, then the onboarding stage, user provisioning, so employees assigned equipment, they're given the user provisioning process is also invoked whenever there's a change in the employee position as well. So they're given access to data and so forth. Orientation as the employee settles into their job, career development as the employee matures, termination, when the employee leaves the organization. So there's several tasks that take place, removing them from payroll, benefits, and so forth. So what does recruitment have to do with security? So when we're gathering all kinds of data from about a candidate, so that information has to be secure or stored securely. So like it says, collecting and accessing candidate data, interviewing, conducting background check, making or rejecting the candidate. So you got a significant flow of information that's coming through the organization. So you've got job posting. Most of the recruiting is internet based or social media or LinkedIn. And you've got Monster. I don't think anyone uses. I think Monster changed to a different name now. So that's an older slide that I have when I taught it. I think Monster has changed their name now. So upside down of this trend is reaching a wider audience. The downside is exposure also reaches a wider audiences. So you got potential intruders and unintended consequences. So you've got a benefit of a wider audience, but you also have, the reverse side of that as well. So intruders often look to use to gather this information as well. So job posting can have all kinds of information, personnel change, product development, so forth. And, social engineering can be used for this. So you got two versions of job description. There's enough information to attract the attention of the potential employee. And you got the version B that it's shared after the first cut is made. So this one is a little bit more secure, so it conveys the mission, describes the position, responsibilities, and so forth. So candidate application data. So companies need the personal information. So they're responsible for protecting that data once the interview is complete. So this data is generally collected. So you got your demographic, contact, work history, accomplishment, education, compensation, feedback from previous employers, references, clearances, and so forth, certificate. Then you've got legally protected information, legally protected non-public personal information. You got your social security number, date of birth, driver license, state identification number, financial information, and so forth. That's collected. So this goes into more information on protecting candidate data. Interview, so you interview the top, so you go through the interview process. Here's an example. So interviewer might reveal the organization is about to launch some kind of new technology. So one of the worst mistakes that an interviewer can make is taking an easy state job candidate on a tour of the facility. So the candidate can, get unauthorized use of the information. So you've got these job recruitment policies that need to be taken into place. Screening perspective. So there's there's some screening policies and so forth. How much do you need to know about your newest salesperson? Certain level of information that you should know. So these goes into the background, into their experience, education, certification. So CFO will have access to confidential data. Um, so you've got to be concerned with confidentiality and integrity, and so forth. So it goes into more detail of that using examples. Here it talks about the Srebrenica-Oxley Acts. So workers have a right to privacy. Um, so that's something that workers have to look into about their privacy policy. So that goes into more details. So this talks about social media that's being used to learn more about the candidates. A friend of mine did research on social media and how much potential candidates put their personal information out there, and that can be used to judge an employer. So by looking at their personal life and things like that, personal data. So you got the FERPA, Family Education Right and Privacy Act, for your grades. Like your family members are not able to see your grades. Motor vehicle records, DMV records. So here you've got the Driver's Privacy Protection Act to get permission to release your record, and so forth. Financial history, FTC, Federal Trade Commission, Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act, and so forth. You got your bankruptcy code. So, all this are information that, that is protected by law. Criminal records, worker compensation history, ADA, American Disabilities Acts. So that can be used to discriminate employers. So you've got other types of background checks. Government clearance, a lot of this is required for certain jobs. So it goes back into the application, investigation phase, adjuncture phase, granting or denying phase. Onboarding, talk some more about that. What happens during that time. Payroll and benefits employee data. So W-4 form, user provisioning. So this is the name given to a process of creating user accounts. Process you have to go Privacy Act, electronic monitoring, camera monitoring, personal search, extension of employees. So it goes more into detail about those. So why is termination considered? So you could have a disgruntled employee. That's the reason. So employee, like it says on the second point here, may seek revenge, create havoc, or take information with them. So that is one of the most dangerous phase of human resource security. So here it goes into some details, information, some policies. Talks about the confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement. So that's entered into by employees and organizational parties. So protecting your information, acceptable use agreements, talks about that. So it goes into more detail about that. Data classification, application policies, password controls, and so forth. security education and NIST training and awareness. So you should have, training that you do for employees every year, and also with the upcoming Cybersecurity Month, there definitely should be more training for employers. So it goes into detail about that. So awareness is not training. So you have to do specific training, data protection training, that employers have to do. So it goes into more detail about different kinds of security training and education. So make sure you read up on Chapter 6. I didn't want this lecture to be that long, so make sure you review that, review your slides, and look over. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.